and good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tonight we will be taking our usual broad look around the DMV landscape. We, of course, have to start off in football, where the DMV teams keep winning. You know, when they're not playing themselves, they appear to be doing pretty dang good. We're going to recap this past week and look ahead to what is a pretty big matchup for the Washington Commanders and an important matchup for the Ravens as well. We're also going to look at our college football teams. It was not the greatest day for DMV schools. We're going to take a look at, the one school that did hold their own and the other three that not only lost, but lost in rather convincing fashion. In the second part of our show, we are going to be looking back on the week that was for the Washington Capitals and the Washington Wizards. The Caps continue to do good, and the Wizards have started off about how we would have expected. And we're also going to take a quick look at some interesting Orioles updates as well. Some various rumors flying around for the offseason that are going to be pretty important to them. All while finishing off Fall Beer Month and North Carolina Beer Month with, it was a pick that had to happen. We're going to talk about why, all of that and more here coming up on Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sport. And once again, good evening, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and who, for the past 10 years and counting, has brought you amazing sports content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. If you have not done so already, please follow us on all social media platforms on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. All of the below, I usually say above, but I realize the quote is below me, so that would probably be a little bit more of an accurate term. But all of these options at IE Sports Radio. We are also available on all of these listening platforms, including but not limited to Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, and many more. Whether you're listening live tonight or if you are listening later on the week, all views are appreciated, and we do greatly appreciate your support. And you've got all of these options to tune in. And of course, you have to check out the website, iesportsradio.com. There you will find the show pages. There's a page dedicated to all 30 plus shows here that we have on the network. If you like most major sports, if you have a particular city you look for, if you like collegiate, we've got something for you, I promise. You can also check out our merchandise, iesportsradio.com/shop. We've got more winter stuff since it's fall transitioning into winter. Definitely check all of that stuff out. You can also find the Fan of the Month page, the Hall of Fame, the blog, which you can find there, or at iesportsradio.com. blog.wordpress.com. You can find that there as well. And of course, you can follow yours truly at letswine_IESR. You can find me on X, Instagram, and TikTok with that handle, sharing all things DMV sports as they come out. And of course, none of this would be possible without our sponsors. And we're going to take a little break here to hear a little bit more about them.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, eSports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Before we jump in here, shout out to a couple of our viewers. We got Adam Karnick, whose voice you just heard twice, actually, both host of the Chi-Town Weekly and introducing Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Asking what's the latest on Jaden Daniels. He is one section too early, and we won't fault him for that, but we will definitely get into that. And also shout out to Yukio. Good evening to you as well, sir. Thank you for the well wishes. We intend on having a great show. We've got a lot of sports to cover, but first, of course, we must start with our beverage of choice for the evening. Now, we are in the final week of North Carolina beer month / fall beverage month. And of course, we have to finish off October with an Oktoberfest. There's no other way to do it. You really, I mean, it writes itself. This particular one is by Foothills Brewing. Foothills Brewing's out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So about an hour and a half away from where I reside, but it is one of the more popular beer brands in the state. And this is their Oktoberfest. Now, what is an Oktoberfest? We go over this every year, I feel like. An Oktoberfest is at its core a lager. So you've got ales and lagers kind of at your base for beers, and then you get all of the different styles from there. But an Oktoberfest is basically a slightly darker, slightly maltier lager. Its specific term is a Marzen, which is a specific German style, hence why Oktoberfest is obviously associated with Germany. But as you can see, when we're going to pour it here, it definitely comes out a darker color than many of the lagers that we typically associate, definitely more so than, like, say, your Yinglings or your Budweisers or things like that. It's a little bit darker, but it's not cloudy, it's not hazy. This particular beer is very crisp and clear color to it, not opaque in any way, shape, or form. It is 5.8% alcohol by volume, I believe I read. Yep, 5.8% alcohol by volume, and an IBU, an International Bitterness Unit, of 42. Reminder, that scale goes from 0 to 120, so this is less than halfway up the scale, but really, I mean, it gets pretty bitter once you get above, say, 70 or 80, so... but yeah, so this one won't be too on the bitter side from this, and like I said, 5.8% alcohol, pretty much right in your typical beer range. 4.5 to 6 seems to be that sweet spot. But of course, all of this yimmering yammering doesn't mean anything until we taste it, right? Let's give it a quick sniff. Smells lovely. Smells like very good beer. You know, Anybody who's a regular beer drinker knows that aroma, knows that sniff, knows that flavor, the smell of a good beer. But, let's give it a taste. It's exactly like it should taste. It's got a little bit more of a malty note to it, but it's very smooth. The flavor's very well balanced. It's not overpowering in any one way. No, it's very good. It's a very well-made beer. Marzen is not a complex or complicated beer flavor. It is a little bit richer mouthfeel, a little bit fuller mouthfeel, and the extra maltiness gives it that warmer feeling, which you're going to start to want in October, particularly in Germany. People don't realize this. Germany's pretty dang far north. In fact, it's so far north, they can only grow wine in really the southwestern corner of the country. It just doesn't grow in the rest of the country. And in the areas that it does grow, it is a little bit difficult to manage. So it's a little bit of a harsher country climate wise than I think a lot of people realize. So October is not very warm. So you need kind of a richer, warmer beer, something with a little bit more alcohol to it to get you through. But that is a very good beer, a very tasty beer. Once again, that is Foothills Brewing Oktoberfest. And yes, get the spelling right. It is with a K. You got to put the K in there or else you're doing it wrong. And actually, there's a little bit of a summary on the back here. I'm going to read it for you guys really quick. Prince Ludwig, it's German, however you want to try it, pronounce it, was a man of the people, which is why, when he married in 1810, he invited the entire town of Munich, Germany. He invited the entire town of Munich, I'm guessing, to his wedding. Thus, Oktoberfest was born, along with the sweet, dark amber lager that has become the namesake of the annual celebration. Ours stays true to the classic style with notes of toasted bread and roasted almonds. Prost, which is their cheers. So, yep, there's a little bit of a history lesson for you. Now you know, and Adam Karnick, you hit it right on the head. Wouldn't be German if you didn't pronounce the K. If you're not pronouncing the K, then you're just not doing it right. Let's go ahead and let's dive into some sports now. We're going to start off with football. Last time we talked, the Ravens and the Commanders had just played each other. And well, what happened last week? Well, the Ravens defeated the Buccaneers 41-31 on Monday Night Football. This was a very strange game. The Bucs got off to a very quick 10-0 start. And then the Ravens proceeded to just start pouring on points. Lamar Jackson threw for 5 touchdown passes. Derrick Henry was effective on the ground. He broke off a really big run where he got chopped down by Bucks corner Zion McCollum at like the 10-yard line, and he joked on Twitter that he was slow as heck and he should have scored and he's disappointed in himself and all that jazz. Not taking into account that Zion McCollum is third year pro for the Bucks, second or third year. He ran a 4.32 40-yard dash. So the dude is pretty dang fast. So I wouldn't be ashamed of that one, Derrick Henry. He outran the rest of the defense in the process. But the Ravens scored 41 of the next 48 points. So it was actually 41-17 at one point in this game. The Bucks were able to tack on a couple of late touchdowns in a desperate attempt at a comeback, but it would ultimately fall short. My only negative note, the only note for the Ravens that is concerning to me continues to be their second half late game defense. They have led in most of the games, if not all of the games they've played. They have just on multiple occasions now. You saw it against the Raiders in the week 2 loss. You almost saw it in Dallas in the week 3 game that was almost a loss. And then you saw it on Monday night. They keep giving up these points and keeping these games close that they should be dominating. And new defensive coordinator Zach Orr and the leaders on this defense, Roquan Smith, Nnamdi Madubuike, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Williams, these guys need to figure out how to lock down and close out games because they're not playing true Ravens defense right now, and that could come back to haunt them later on in the season. But a win is a win. Next week, or coming up on week 8, tomorrow, we've got the Ravens at the Browns. It's a favorable game for them because the Browns are in a very rough position. But it's a division game. It's always important to win those, no matter how bad the opponent is. Division games just have this way of being a little bit more difficult than your regular games. If it was any other 1-6 team in the league, if it was the Panthers, if it was the Titans, I think those are the only 1-6 teams in the league. But in any case, if it was the other 1-6 teams, I would definitely, I would have more confidence. Not that I'm not confident that the Ravens can beat the Browns, but these divisional games, you just never know. Jameis Winston, we haven't seen a ton of him over the last couple of years. When we have seen him in his career, he's either been electric or mistake prone, and he tends to gravitate towards the extremes. I can tell you, going back to his FSU days, that was definitely his tendency. But a game that should be winnable for the Ravens, but it is a divisional matchup, so at minimum, it is important that they secure this victory, keep the Browns down there in the basement, one less team to worry about. If they are able to walk away with this one. And please, defense, come on, guys, finish off the fourth quarter for us, please. We would love a game that's relaxing, that we can kick back with a beer in the fourth quarter and just enjoy it. Sorry, I keep getting foam in my beard. I guess that's a great mark as well. Interesting note I saw. Ravens safeties Eddie Jackson and Marcus Williams, so not Kyle Hamilton, but those two who they do use the 3 safeties often because they like to move Hamilton down into the box, are 2 of the 10 worst safeties by PFF. Now, I know PFF isn't the be-all end-all, but even so, that's still not a great place to be. So who knows? Either those guys need to pick it up, or maybe the team needs to be looking at some more safety help come the trade deadline, which is coming up very rapidly. But they're still 5-2. Can't complain about that. Still, I believe, tied with the Steelers for the top of the division. Let me double check that. I feel like they were still tied when we last looked. Hang on one moment. This should only take a second here. The Ravens are yes, tied with the Steelers. Still have the advantage because the Steelers still have yet to play a divisional game. Don't know how they've managed that in 7 games, which means the Steelers have 6 divisional games in their last 10. That's going to be really interesting for them. But still tied at the top with the Bengals, 2 games back, and the Browns 4 games back. They can really knock the Browns down and out, though, with a victory this weekend. As for the Commanders, they got that relaxing game that I was hoping for against the Panthers. They started this one off with a Dante Fowler 67-yard interception return for a touchdown. Not very common for an edge rusher, but not very common for an edge rusher, but still got the job done nonetheless. And the Commanders just never looked back on this one. The final score 40-7. The big news in this game was Jaden Daniels getting knocked out early on their first drive. He had a big 47-yard run, but he got tackled. Instead of running out of bounds or sliding, he got tackled rather awkwardly, finished off the drive, but then was taken off of the field and was seen returning to the sideline in street clothes in the second half. But the mood seemed good. It hasn't been revealed to be a serious injury, so that is good news. But the Commanders completely dominated in all phases. They showed that they were the vastly better team. Now, very big game for them coming up against the Chicago Bears. Obviously, you've got number 1 pick in the 2024 draft, Caleb Williams, and you've got number 2 pick in the 2024 NFL draft, Jaden Daniels. Of course, the big question mark is Jaden Daniels, which we're just going to go ahead and jump into that really quick. What is the injury update? Well, it's not serious, but the team has not committed to an answer on whether he is going to play. I know that he did not practice a large portion of the week. He was able to get some practice time in yesterday, so that's good news. However, as for his status of the game, still incredibly up in the air. We might not know until an hour beforehand whether he is going to play or not. So the good news is he avoided a serious injury. The bad news is that he may not be able to go in this very significant matchup. But the Commanders versus Bears, this is one of the better teams the Commanders have faced this year. The Commanders, this will only be the 3rd team with a winning record that Washington has faced. And they have lost the other 2 to the Ravens and the Bucks. Now, the flip side of this, as I discussed on the Chi-Town Weekly with Adam Karnick earlier this week, is that the Bears really haven't beaten anybody great either. They also have only faced 2 teams with winning records and lost both of those. So they're kind of in the same boat in that one. The big problem is that Washington's Chicago's strengths seem to match up very well with Washington's weaknesses, and Chicago's weaknesses, the Commanders aren't really well adapted to exploit them very much. So, injured secondary, but this team is not a prolific passing offense, especially if it's going to be Marcus Mariota. Now, Mariota did finish the game against the Panthers. He did look very good, but we have to asterisk that it is the Panthers. So, put a little asterisk next to that performance. But he is an NFL veteran. He's experienced, and he's coming off a very good game. Could he come out and perform well in relief of Jaden Daniels should Daniels not be able to go? I think there's a chance. I think, playing style-wise, he's not too far off from Daniels, so I think the offense works for him if it works for Daniels. Hopefully, all of the other weapons are healthy for the Commanders, namely Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler, who have been 2 of the biggest weapons for the team. And then the defense has to be able to stop a Chicago offense that has been rolling pretty well the past few weeks. So big game, big question mark with Jaden Daniels. We're just going to have to go into tomorrow and see how everything works itself out. It's really is still a mystery at this time. Now we're going to take a slightly depressing turn. What am I talking about? A very depressing turn as we move into the college ranks. Adam Karnick bringing up a very good point. Marcus Mariota is 2-0 lifetime against the Bears. Beat them with the Falcons in 2022 and when he was with the Titans in 2016. So, I'm not saying there isn't any hope without Mariota. I think there's still hope. I just think there's less hope if it's Mariota versus Daniels. And that's more so because the other matchups on the teams are not great. This is not a game that is fantastically set up for the Commanders. But back to the depressing college ranks. Let's start with Maryland, who lost to Minnesota in definitive fashion. It was 21-0 at the end of the first quarter, and the Terps just never recovered. Final score 48-23. That drops them to 4-4 on the season. And this was, remember, we talked about last week, these last 5 games. They've got 2 really tough matchups against Penn State and Oregon. This was one of the games that if this team wanted to secure a bowl game, one of the games that they probably needed to win, because now they need to win both of their other matchups. I believe Rutgers and Northwestern are the last of the 2 non-Oregon and Penn State games that they have. So this really was, if, like I said, if this team really was really going to make a bowl game, this was one of the games that they needed to win. And I'm just confirming the schedule here really quick. Rutgers and Iowa. Oh, even better. Oh, that's right. They already lost to Northwestern. My bad, Northwestern. Iowa, who's 5-3. Rutgers, who's 4-4. Now, thankfully, both of those games are at home because they're not beating Oregon on the road. Oregon, who just completely mollywopped Illinois. Sorry, Adam. And they're definitely not beating Penn State on the road either. So, yeah, is Penn State playing this week? Penn State's not. Oh, no, they're playing. They're playing right now. Ooh, they're losing to Wisconsin. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That might make the rankings interesting. I'm always interested to see how the rankings go. But yes, Maryland puts themselves in the position where they need to win both of the games against Rutgers and Iowa. And if they lose one of those, then I don't think they're going to a bowl game this year, folks. I do not see this team coming up with a road upset, especially if Billy Edwards, the normal starting quarterback, continues to play the way he played today. 2 interceptions. I think he had a rushing touchdown, but just overall very inefficient game for him. Now let's keep up with the depressing news. University of Virginia hosted UNC today, and they also lost in spectacular fashion, 41-17. This one was not particularly close, so they also dropped to 4-4 on the season. Not looking great for the Cavaliers, although let's also be honest, I think people thought this team would finish with 4 wins on the season. So I think the fact that they've already made it to 4 wins is an accomplishment in its own right. Oh, sorry, 41-14. I was off by a field. I tried to give them more credit than apparently I should have. But yes, they take the tough loss to North Carolina. And that's right. I remember now. They have a whale of a schedule. They face Pittsburgh next week, who's might be the highest ranked ACC team at the end of the week, as they stay undefeated. They've got Virginia gets the week off next week. So this upcoming week they'll be off. Then it's on Saturday the 9th. They're at Pittsburgh, then at Notre Dame. So that's a really rough back-to-back, which might force them to have to beat both SMU and Virginia Tech, which is not going to be a cakewalk. Either. Adam asking a really funny question. What will have the greater margin of victory? UNC Virginia football or men's basketball? Well, Virginia plays very good defensive collegiate basketball, so I imagine they'll be able to keep that game closer than 27 points. So I'm going to say the football game in this particular one, Adam, but that is a great question, and that's one we'll have to watch for as we move on. But yeah, much like Maryland, very tough uphill battle for the Cavaliers to try to get to a bowl game. We were talking about bowl game watch for all of our teams last week, and these were the games that Virginia and Maryland needed to win to make sure that they got to that point. They didn't, so now they're in these tough situations. We'll keep on the depressing train here. Navy is no longer undefeated, guys. They got Notre Dame, and I hate to say that we kind of expected this because, I mean, let's face it about Navy football. I mean, these guys, football is not their number one priority. Not that I'm saying it is for every student athlete, but, the military men, their number one priority is training to serve in the armed forces. Football is something that they definitely play and they're good at, but does Navy, at least modern day Navy, ever have the capabilities of standing up to these, juggernaut teams? Let's be real, they don't. They just don't. It's just not in the cards for them because it's not that important to Navy to be that good at football. They're very good this year. They're still 6-1. They will likely drop out of the rankings because of this, which is sad. But I mean, they were 24. You lose a game when you're 24, you're usually bounced. Do I think they could get back into the rankings if they win out? Yes. Do I think they could win out? Yes. But this team, they're going to get a fun, they're going to be in the Armed Forces Bowl probably. And it's going to be a fun bowl game, but this was never going to happen. There was no Navy over Notre Dame upset in the cards, but I think Navy's still going to fight hard, and I think they're still going to probably get to 10 wins at least, looking at their remaining schedule. So go Navy, and of course, beat Army at the end of the year. But there was one bright spot, one shining example of quality DMV football today, and that was Virginia Tech defeating Georgia Tech 21-6. They even broke out the Philly special in this one with Kaiden Drones, the quarterback, catching a touchdown pass, which was a great little trick play. Kind of fun. You like to see those fun plays in college football. I feel like has them more than most. But yes, that brings them to 5-3 on the season. Definitely puts them in strong bowl game conversation. Their rest of the schedule is no slouch. They go to Syracuse next week. Syracuse is 5-2. They host Clemson, which obviously Clemson's a juggernaut. They go to Duke, who's having a great season, and then they host Virginia, who's better than most expected. But, only having to win one of those games, I think they can do it. I think they got it. I think the combination of Kaiden Drones and Byshawn Tootin should be able, Byshul Tootin should be able to get the job done. At least one more time. Just one more time, guys. That is all you need to do there. Let's not be fancy. Let's not be tricky. Let's just get one more victory. And then you guys can go into the offseason, or you guys can go to a bowl game and then go into the offseason knowing that you as well exceeded expectations, which most people had both Virginia Tech and Virginia at the bottom of the ACC. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen because I think Florida State is going to be at the bottom of the ACC from the looks of it. That'll do it for the first part of our show. We're going to take our commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get into, probably some more, at least a little bit partially depressing sports, but some not so depressing sports news as well. So do not go away. You are listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate die-hard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold. Have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen B, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We have reached the second part of our show. I'm still working on this bad boy, but I'm almost done, which is, of course, my prime time to remind everybody of the show's main message, which is please drink responsibly, do not drink and drive. One of my favorite social media posts regarding this topic is that you can afford an Uber or a taxi before you can afford a DUI. So please drink responsibly, do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. I will not be going anywhere after this, and if you've been drinking, neither should you. So if you're at home, please stay put. Or if you're out and about watching the World Series game or, whatever college football game is on, basketball season, hockey season, we got all different kinds of sports going on at a bar, or if you're at a party, hanging out with friends, or whatever the reason may be, whatever you're out drinking for, please find a safe alternative method home. Uber, taxi, designated driver, Lyft, Amazon ship yourself home if that's an option. I don't care what it is. Just please do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. We are on to our non-football sports. for the evening. So let's start with I'm going to start with the Wizards because their game is over. Although the Caps game, looking at it, is it's pretty much over. But the Wizards regular season has started, and they are 0-2 to kick it off. They lost to the Celtics on Thursday. Not a very close game at all. The team shot absolutely horrifically from three, outside of Jordan Poole, who we're going to talk about in a moment, but I believe Poole was 6 of 11 from three, and the rest of the team was 1 for 20, 1 for 22, something absolutely atrocious. The rookies did not play great, and the team did make a surprising lineup change to start the season. They actually put two rookies in the starting lineup, Alex Sarr, who they actually have playing the 5, the center spot, in the base lineup. And then Bub Carrington in at shooting guard at the 2 next to Jordan Poole. So their starting lineup for the first 2 games actually has been Jordan Poole at the 1, Bub Carrington at the 2, Bilal Coulibaly at the 3, Kyle Kuzma at the 4, and then Alex Sarr at the 5. And we're getting Dre Area Sports jumping in. Good evening, sir. Thank you for jumping in here. We are having a great show so far. If you missed it, we're drinking an Oktoberfest beer. So if you enjoy beers and if you enjoy lagers, tis the season for some great Oktoberfest. So thank you for tuning in, good sir. And yeah, very interesting lineup choice. It wasn't really anything that I guess they did do it once or twice in the preseason, but I thought it was interesting getting both the rookies in there and then also giving the third rookie first round pick, Kyson George, significant minutes in both games. George had a really rough game tonight against the Cavs, which, by the way, the Wizards lost 135 to 116. A little bit better shooting from the team, but still not great. But Kyson George was 0 for 7 tonight shooting wise. So the rookies kind of off to a rough start in the first game. Not much offensive production from them. And it's interesting because a lot of people on Twitter, it's a weird concept. Everybody's like hyper criticizing the team as if them tanking wasn't like almost an intentional part of the season. I know they've done some roster moves to make you think that they were trying to contend, although I wouldn't exactly say going out and signing Jonas Valanciunas and training Deni Avdija for a draft pick and Malcolm Brogdon and playing 3 rookies heavily from a draft class that admittedly needed some development for the most part is really a recipe for competing. Or having Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole as your top 2 players. I really don't know where people got the message that this team was actually trying in 2024, 2025, but people are treating it like that. So I guess, if they want to be hypercritical of how everyone's performing, and Kyle Kuzma's off to a really bad start, and the fans were booing him in game 1, even though the man was virtually the only thing worth watching on this team last year. Yeah, I everybody's like being angry and mad. I'm just like, okay, this is par for the course. I mean, 2 of the easily top 8, probably top 6 teams in the Eastern Conference were our first 2 opponents. If we went 1-1, I would have been thrilled. If we went 2-0 in this, I would have fallen out of my chair. So this was gonna be an 0-2 start. I don't know why. I guess people nitpicking like, oh, they shouldn't be playing the rookies so much, and why are they playing Kuzma so much? Well, first of all, what are their other options? Look at the rest of the roster. You're not playing Corey Kispert and Bilal Coulibaly and Jonas Valanciunas for 40 minutes a game. So these guys are going to play, and they're going to go through growing pains. The rookies are. Kyle Kuzma, I don't know what the heck is going on with him. I guess he's just not quite in midseason form yet, which is fine. But again, like, guys, this team is going to be bad. It's kind of the point is to be bad. And let's call it what it is. They're tanking to try to get the best pick possible in a very good 2025 draft class, where ideally, if they can get a top 2 or 3 pick, that's going to be their focal point of the future. Now, Sarr, Carrington, Kaishan George, Bilal Koulibaly, these guys are all pieces for the future. But this team wasn't going to contend this year. So why are we mad that they're 0-2 against two top teams? I don't get it. Just let the season flow, everybody. But back to, the facts of the games. Rookies off to kind of a rough start. Really interesting lineup choices in terms of rotations. I would have thought Jonas Valanciunas would be starting, but he is coming off the bench. Now he's playing significant minutes off the bench, and the team is using Sarr as a combo 4-5. So their other guys who are centers, Valanciunas and Bagley, less Rashawn Holmes to start the season, which I find interesting considering you're paying him 8 figures, but it's neither here nor there. Actually, did he play? I know he didn't play at all in the first game, but did he play tonight? I'm just taking a quick look here. Box score. Yeah, so he didn't play tonight either. So they've been using Valanciunas and Bagley as the reserve fives. They even used Patrick Baldwin and Johnny Davis tonight. That's how much of a slam dunk. Oh, Adam Karnick's got it right on the point because being mad is what fans do best. That's fair. But yeah, I don't know why they're not using. Maybe Holmes is banged up a little bit. I'm not entirely sure what they're doing there. But in any case, 0-2. But there is one bright spot, and that has been Jordan Poole, who gets our Player of the Week award. He was the only efficient shooter in the first game, dropped 26 points. Less prolific in this game. In the second game, he only scored 14. But it was on 50% shooting and was 4 for 7 from 3. So he's been very good from 3, very efficient. He also had 6 assists and 3 steals. So contributing in a variety of ways through 2 games. Poole easily been the best player on the floor. He was outscored in the second game, but that's okay. That's going to happen. You're going to have random guys dropping 20 points a night with this team. That doesn't make them the best players on the team. It just means that they had a good night. But yes, Jordan Poole, Player of the Week, very efficient start to his season. Who was the leading scorer tonight? That was actually Bilal Koulibaly, who has scored 23 points, 9 of 16 shooting, 4 of 9 from 3. In fact, Bilal and Poole combined to go 8 for 16 from 3-point range. The rest of the team was 7 for 27. So not great, but better. They improved his shooting wise, just the defense just did absolutely nothing as Donovan Mitchell dropped 30 points. Jared Allen and Darius Garland both dropped 23 points. Good Lord. Allen, Garland, and Mitchell were combined 30 for 39. That is absurd. It's like the defense wasn't even on them. Oh well. Anyways, like I said, my expectations are low, so we're just gonna go with the flow of the season. They've got the Hawks on Monday. Actually, they've got the home and away against the Hawks on Monday and Wednesday, and the Hawks are 2-0, so that's great. And I will not be going live next week, so I won't get to cover their Heat game. But then they get the Warriors. Oh, that's great. And then the Grizzlies. So those are their 5 games before we see each other again. This team might be 0-7 when we come back. Oh, I think 1-6. I think they get 1. I think they get 1, guys. I don't think they're going to go 0-7 to start the season. Although, I don't know. Hey, the Mystics started the season 0-12, so maybe those are their aspirations to match the Mystics. And the Caps game just wrapped up. So I feel confident in sharing this fact because they did lose to the Lightning 3-0. So the Caps go 2-1 on the week. They are 5-2 on the season, which is still phenomenal. They're off to a great start. Obviously, this game a little bit of a letdown, but hey, it's an 82-game season. No team has ever gone 82-0 in hockey. In fact, if you win 50 regulation games, that's considered a fantastic season. So great start still for the Caps. Offensive explosions in their 2 games against the Flyers, winning 4-1 and then 6-3. The Player of the Week, there were a bunch of options. A lot of guys were very prolific in those 2 games, but I am going to go with Connor McMichael as the Player of the Week. He had 2 assists in the first game against the Flyers and then 2 goals in the second game against the Flyers. He's +4. I included the Tampa Bay numbers where he was -1, but he's +4 in those games, which the team as a whole was +5. So there you go. Very strong start to the season. Second in points on the team for is McMichael behind Dylan Strom. And he's like a third liner too. So I mean that's great production. You're really seeing the Caps get performance from every level. And I think that's what might set this team apart going through the season is the fact that any of their four lines can contribute. Nick Dowd scored 2 goals against the Flyers on Wednesday, and he's a 34-year-old who's never been higher than a third line winger. I think he's their fourth line center in the current rotations, but you know, just getting performance. Everybody's contributing, not just Strome, McMichael, and Dowd, but Pierre Dubois, who the team added this past season. Same with Andrew Mangiapane. Taylor Radish has contributed. Who else has been playing regularly? Hendrix Lapierre's contributed. All these guys, obviously Ovechkin, Tom Wilson, who leads the team in goals. Everybody's contributing. Goaltending, give or take, but that was kind of expected. I mean, we're not even paying $2 million for our goaltenders this year, so yeah, I expected a little bit of inconsistency from that position group, and maybe if the team is strongly competitive, maybe they go out and they look at the goaltending market at the trade deadline. If this team really thinks they have a shot at the Stanley Cup, which obviously we're only 7 games into also an 82 game season. That could be something that they put out there for feelers, but that if that's still a long ways away. We really have to let this team really get into it, but the flow seems to be good. The chemistry seems to be good. All of these free agent additions seem to not be greatly impacting the team. Oh, I forgot the defenders. Jacob Kykren's been really good. John Carlson's been very good. Rasmus Sandin, all of these guys, everybody is contributing to the success of this team. And that's what really has made the beginning of the season so great. But this week's shout out does go to Connor McMichael. Hopefully he can keep this up because he could be one of the big pieces of the future for this team, which the future is not looking half bad with some of the guys that they have coming up the ranks. And of course, Adam Karnick actually kind of jumped the gun here. Ovechkin watch. That is right. We do have to do our Ovechkin record watch. And Alex did get a goal this past week, an empty netter against the Flyers. So that does move him. He now needs 40 goals to pass the Great Eight. So far, he is scoring 1 goal every 3.5 games. They're 7 games in, and he scored 2 goals. That rate is not going to do it because he's not even going to get to 30 on the season. So he's going to have to pick it up a little bit. However, as someone did point out, his career goal per game average is 0.6. So with 75 games left, that would mean he would ideally be able to get 45 more goals. Now, admittedly, his pace is slow the last couple of seasons, but hey, if he can get a little bit of a rhythm going and he can get back to that pace, he should be able to break the record this year. So we're going to obviously keep an eye on that, but he did get 1 this week. He moves 1 step closer to potentially passing the Great Eight, Wayne Gretzky, as the all-time goal scorer. We've got a few minutes left in our show, and we're going to talk about an off-season topic for one of our teams, but the Baltimore Orioles, some free agent contract talk, a buzz, which basically started when the Yankees and the Dodgers secured their bids to the World Series. So basically everybody else just stopped following it at that point, which, by the way, let's take a quick look. The Dodgers were winning. Fantastic walk-off fashion for Freddie Freeman a couple nights ago, but how are we doing so far? The Dodgers are leading to start this game, so we'll see how that goes. I can tell you that I honestly could not be less interested in who wins that one. But in any case, a lot of free agent talk, and especially talk about free agent contracts. Lots of people sharing their predictions, lots of sites, experts, analysts sharing their predictions. And the Orioles have two of the big names on the free agent market in ace pitcher Corbin Burnes and corner outfielder Anthony Santander. Now, Burnes' contract projections are not they're basically what we expected. 6 or 7 years, something in the low to mid 30s per year. I think I saw the most common one I've seen is like 7 years, 240 million, which would be about 34 million a year. I think, if I'm the Orioles and I'm new ownership and I really am serious about trying to chase that World Series ring next year, I think that is an amount of money I'd be willing to pony up. Reminder, the Orioles salary cap situation. They do have some money committed next year. However, they can free up $24 million by releasing Eloy Jimenez and Ryan O'Hearn, which, of course, they'd have to replace O'Hearn's production, but he was pretty rough down the stretch. So hopefully they can find some way to replace that as a first base DH, rare corner outfielder type player. But that would free up $24 million, and the team is not unfamiliar with deferring salary to try to keep Burnes' number down. I think they could set it up to where, they're really only paying him about $30 million a year for the contract, and then they have some deferred money that they have to worry about in 6 to 7 years. I wouldn't be worried about that if I was ownership. I'd be worrying about winning a World Series. So I could see that happening, but the Burnes projections, not out of the realm of expectation. Now, the Anthony Santander discussions, those have been interesting because a lot of us have theorized that Santander would be getting like a 3-ish year deal, probably in the neighborhood of $20 to $22 million, maybe $23 million a year. But I have seen some projections that have him getting a 6-year deal. Now, congratulations to him if he can get a 6-year deal with $20 to $25 million guaranteed. Maybe there's a player or a club option at the end. However, the one thing about Santander is still a very good defensive right fielder. However, he is not incredibly athletic, and that's really his main downfall that's keeping him from being a great defensive right fielder, which means I think for the next 2 to 3 years, if you signed him to a 2 or 3 year contract, yes, you can keep him in the corner outfield. But I think if you sign him, if any team signs him to a 6-year deal, Orioles included, they are going to have to take into account that they might have to move him to first base or to DH nearly full time once you get to year 3 or 4 and for the rest of the deal. So you will have to take that into consideration. I hope that both return, and I think, the team has some money committed to next year when we factor in arbitration contracts, but I would actually move off of O'Hearn, Eloy Jimenez, heck, even Sir Anthony Dominguez, if it meant keeping Anthony Santander and Corbin Burnes, at least for the next few seasons. That will do it for tonight's show. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who contributed to the chat room. Once again, if you have not done so already, please follow us on all social media platforms, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. You can also follow yours truly at Let'sWine_IESR. Check out our website, IESportsRadio.com, with our show pages, merchandise, all of the above. Listen to us on all of these listening options later on in the week for sure, or go back and check episodes that you might have missed. And of course, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, premium brisket beef jerky that's on a whole nother planet, and Seal the Deal wax seals. And of course, we cannot end the show without reminding you to please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Mike Patt for Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. See you next time.